Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. It is I, Miss Ty, also known as I'm Not a Poet, I Just Think a Lot. Um, Today, I just want to talk to you guys about mental health and well being, and also the stigmas associated with being mentally ill. Um, I know now with the certainty that the greatest decision that I've ever made in my life has been a decision to continue to live. And I say that because there have been times in my life when I just didn't want to anymore. The burden of being trapped within the thoughts in my head, overwhelmed, and stole the joys from my life. There were times when I was in so much pain that I'd just rather not. I'd just rather not anymore. I'd just rather not feel. I'd just rather not be. I'd rather not cause any more discomfort, pain for those people in my life who I felt I didn't help. My presence made no impact. My presence made no difference. My presence had no point anymore, even within my own existence. So I just chose to not. And in my deepest, darkest of days, I made decisions at times that I now look back on, and I'm so thankful God didn't allow me to see those choices through. But there's a pain that overwhelms some of us so much at times that there's no words. There's no understanding that we could put into. There's no way that I could verbalize it so that way you would understand unless you've ever been in my shoes. I say that because trauma is real. Trauma impacts each of us in a different way. Trauma is going to affect each of us depending upon the coping skills that we've learned to deal with life. And a lot of us, unfortunately, are not equipped with coping mechanisms that will allow us to see a better day during our darkest days. And that's because, unfortunately, the people who are raising us, rearing us, don't have those tools themselves to pass along to us. I grew up in a home where I witnessed depression. I witnessed anxiety. I witnessed hurt so deep that sometimes it could not be verbalized. But I always saw the tears. I felt the energy shift. I felt the pain of people's existence, the turmoil of being trapped within a moment or a time that was just so painful and scarred souls and beings so much that it it could be felt and palpated by everybody around them, but it could not be acknowledged by the person experiencing it. So I witnessed and I learned from those around me to hide that pain, to keep it to myself, to have no words for it, to have no voice. And it was because they couldn't verbalize it. So that's what I learned, to keep it in. And so one trauma after another continued to impact me, continued to mark me as a razor blade to my soul, piercing me, leaving parts of me exposed, vulnerable to those in my life who meant me no well, those in my life who saw that need for me to want to be loved. It was literally like I had a marking across my head that said, do what you want to me because it's already been done. Being in such a pain, being in such a painful state of existence also continued to allow me to place myself in situations around people and places that might not have been beneficial to me. But I didn't have the courage to love me. I did not have the courage to be stronger than the situations that I was in at that time. And so I hurt. I hurt to the point that I remember my first time ever considering taking my own life. I was about 12 or 13 years old. I remember trying to disclose to people in my life that I had been abused, that somebody had did something to me, and nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to acknowledge, because I believe that a part of the adults in your life feel as though they failed you. And the truth was, yeah, but that wasn't your fault. You cannot be with somebody 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. The only person who you'll ever be with always is yourself. So I don't fault those people now as I look back. As a child, I just knew that I needed to be heard. I needed someone to believe me. And the fact that my words weren't heard, it left me in a state of confusion. I wasn't sure if my reality was really my reality, or if the things that I was going through and the life that I was existing, if it was real, because people around me were telling me that it wasn't. But I knew what I experienced. I knew what I had witnessed. I knew what had been done to me, and I understood how it affected me, but nobody around me could understand, and nobody seemed to care. And I remember standing in my mother's bathroom with a knife and holding it to my stomach. And the only thing that saved my life was I could hear my grandmother praying for me. And I understood that even in the midst of my pain, that I was going to cause more harm to her. But later on in my life, those thoughts of despair, compounded by continued incidents of abuse and hurt in my life, it made it harder and harder for me to hear the prayers, for me to hear the love of the people in my life who really did care about me. The next time that I remember being suicidal, I was a new mother. I was somebody's wife. I had on the outside every reason in my life to be happy, and inside I was miserable. I was in turmoil. I was so hurt by the things in my childhood still that I continued to allow them to hold anchor to my spirit instead of allowing it to help me to soar throughout my life, as I've done later on. And I remember just feeling as though I just rather not anymore. I just rather not be this painful, existing parasite who served no purpose to the ones in my life who I knew I loved, but I wasn't sure if that love was being returned to me. I just couldn't feel it. I could not accept it because a part of me did not feel worthy of it. And I look back now and I'm so thankful that once again, God was not in agreement with the plans that I had for myself. Yahweh had a different plan for me, a different blueprint that, thank goodness, the Creator was able to see that I couldn't see for myself. And people, unfortunately, attach a stigma to mental illness. They attach a stigma to it in the African American community, especially, to where it's a shame. We rather talk about somebody than look at them and try to help them. And it's a very, very hurtful existence for the person who is actually experiencing a pain so hard that they can't tell if their reality is truly the life that they're living. I was fortunate to seek help, to seek treatment, and for years I was all right, or so it seemed on the outside. But truth be told, I just stopped. I just stopped feeling. I no longer had the courage to. I just went about my existence on the outside looking as though everything was fine. I went on and pursued my education. I had a wonderful career, beautiful children, family life, you know what I'm saying? On the outside, as I said, successful, but on the inside, that switch of emotions I had turned off. I no longer had that ability to feel because I understood that feeling and I couldn't deal with those emotions would lead me in a place of despair, a place where I'd just rather not exist. So I continued to ignore, and I did not deal with the things in my life that that I eventually had the courage to re-walk through in order to get to where I am right now. And I did not have to deal with the traumas of my existence or of my life until I lost my grandmother. And I also had the unfortunate experience of having a miscarriage on the exact same day. And it seemed like the protective barrier that I'd built around myself came crashing down all at once. And all of the pain, all of the turmoil, all of the hurt, all of the anger, all of the wanting to be heard that I had never experienced because I had the distraction of my grandmother's comfort there for me. And I no longer had that wall. I no longer had that barrier. And for the first time in my life, I began to feel again. And that That in itself is horrible to imagine 14, 15, 16 years worth of trauma just compounding on a person at once. And it left me the walking dead. I was dead with inside, I was dead on the outside, and it began to show. I began to lose weight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I could no longer function in the state of existence that I was in. And everything in me longed to just want to be held in the arms of my safety net one more time, to be back with my grandmother, to be back in peace, to be able to hold my baby, and that in turn led me to another trip to the mental ward, another trip to a road that I didn't think I was going to have to walk, again, because I had gotten so good at hiding, so good at turning off those emotions. And I literally came to in the mental ward, like, what the fuck? Where am I? How did I get here again? What did y'all do? All right. And it hurt, and it hurt. And for the first time in all of my pain, I did not have that safety net to rebound me. I did not have that comfort of my grandmother, of her home, of 5792D Water Tank Road. I had no place to return to. The only solace that I could find was in myself. It was finally going to be on me to save myself. And for the first time, I decided to live. I decided that the things in my life that others are walking the streets dead and in their grave behind, or locked up in somebody's prison, I was not going to let them have me. I was no longer going to allow those things to have power over my life, over me, to take the joy away from my being, to take the joy away from my existence. Because unfortunately, I was the only one still caught up in that trauma. And I decided to live. I decided to be brave enough and strong enough to walk back through all of that trauma in order to get me forward in life. Because what I've learned is that sometimes you got to go back to go forward, and that's okay. There is strength in your will. There is strength in your power. There is strength in your past. You just must be willing to take those negative experiences and turn them into something positive. But it took a lot of pain. It has been a continuous journey that I've had to be on. This painful journey that I wasn't even aware I needed to partake in did not even begin in my life until 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. When I decided once again that I just was not okay. I was just not okay with being in that much mental pain. I was not okay with just simply taking these medications to stabilize my mood, to keep me from being psychotic, to help my overall nerves be bad, because they were not working on themselves on their own. Nothing I did, no amount of pills that the doctor gave me was working. It was because I never dealt with the emotional trauma that I had sustained. I never dealt with the scars that formed in my brain as these incidents continued to happen. I never dealt with the trauma of my existence. But then I decided to. I decided to live. And you guys, it has been one of the most gracious, most painful, most exciting, most endearing adventures that I've ever partaken in my life. And so I want to encourage you all that from the brink of suicide, you can return. From the brink of mental pain and anguish, you can be better. But it's not going to be the medicine on its own that's going to save you. You have to take control, and you have to save yourself. You must be strong enough and courageous enough to look back at your life. Acknowledge what it is that hurt you. Acknowledge what it is that tried to break you, and walk free. Break free of those chains. No longer allow them to hold you hostage to who you no longer are. All right? Be at peace, because your pain and the presence of your life makes a difference. You matter. I began to encourage myself, reprogramming my mind, removing one negative thought after another, continuing to replace those negative trains of thought with more positive affirmations about who I am, remembering the power of my presence, remembering that my strength lies in my ability to survive. There is nothing, there's nothing weak about you. There is nothing weak about me. It took me to realize that my strength came from my experiences, and I would not be who I am were it not for where I had been in my life. Yahweh has blessed me. Yahweh has blessed me with a spirit of courage. Yahweh has blessed me with a spirit of forgiveness. Yahweh has blessed me with a spirit of perseverance. I have grit, if nothing else. And that in itself, along with the love that I have for living, with the joy that I have for smiling, with the peace that comes from raising little people who continue to feed me in a way that I never knew I needed. I am so thankful for. But also, I have friends who, even in my darkest of days, stood by me. I have people who have seen me at the worst when even I couldn't see myself, and they were still able to love me. And so for that, I just want to tell you thank you. And for those of you who are out there who ridicule people in your life who may suffer from depression, who suffer from anxiety, there is nothing wrong with those people. And from those of you who suffer from anxiety, there is nothing wrong with you. From those of you who suffer from depression, there is nothing wrong with you. Those are chemical imbalances within your body. Your nervous system no longer functions in the way in which it should, but it does function in the way in which you've been programmed. All right. So now it's a matter of learning to reprogram yourself. And I'm just going to stop right here because these are my truths. All right. And I speak my truths because they empower me. And I pray that my having the courage to share my story, to share my trials and my tribulations will give someone else the courage to be able to be, and to know that somebody hears you. Somebody understands the pain and the trauma of your existence. Somebody is also at the same time fighting to smile, fighting to be just like you. So don't give up on yourself. Seek help. Call the suicide prevention hotline if you ever feel so lost, so much of a burden to yourself and to this world that you can't go on, because you can. Reach out. Don't be afraid anymore, you guys. You're not alone. There's a whole world of hurt people, and together we can make it through. You just have to be courageous enough to speak out for yourself. Okay? So, outside of the greatest love that God could give you guys, I want to tell you that I do love you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, to experience with you my joys, my sorrows, my happies, my sad. And I don't share my story for sympathy, not at all. Please don't have any sympathy for me, because I'm not that kind of a person. I'm not very sympathetic towards others because of the things that I've been through in my life. I have no understanding. All right. Because if I made it through, I know you can. And that doesn't come from a place of being conceited. It comes from a place of strength. Like, I know what you're made of. All right. And I know that even in your darkest days, you can still be your own light. You just got to choose to shine. All right. Peace.